Us to talk about 3 tips for navigating that market uncertainty. Colton Saunders with Edward Jones. Hello, Colton. Thanks for being here.
Hey, Mary Grace. Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Of course. So you have some strategies we can use to kind of navigate this, Colton. How can we stay on track financially during these uncertain times?
Of course, yeah. Volatility has certainly been a theme this year in the markets, and so I guess my first suggestion or tip would be don't try to avoid bear markets. I know that may sound uh, sort of counterintuitive or odd, but there's a saying, no risk, no reward, right? And so I think it's very true when this comes to investing. Um, Downturns are a very normal part of how financial markets work, and we just need to come to expect downturns and bear markets. So for a little just education here, a correction is a drawdown of 10% or more in the market, and those normally happen about once per year, so they're fairly common. And then a bear market is a drawdown of about 20% or more, and we usually get one of those about every 3 years. And so again, corrections and bear markets are a normal part of the market, so we just have to come to expect that. And I think one thing that can kind of help folks navigate this is making sure that when they meet with their investment professional to quantify the amount of risk that they're taking, and just make sure and keep that in check on an annual basis. So,
Absolutely. So
yeah,
we want to don't avoid bear markets, as you said. And what about when it comes to market uncertainty? A lot of times we want to be checking our accounts over and over again. Is that what we should be doing?
good question. And I actually hear this from some folks every once in a while that they check their accounts every day. I really can't imagine doing that. And so, of course, my advice would be, to try to refrain from doing that. I know headlines can be alarming and it's easy to fear the worst, or maybe your account's gone down, or maybe your account's gone up some and you want to look at it. It's okay, of course, to check it periodically, but every day seems like a lot. And so my advice would be sit back, let your investments work and do what they're supposed to, focus on the long term. And also, maybe one thing to kind of help navigate this is making sure that you've got proper emergency funds set aside so you don't have to worry quite so much about the day to day fluctuations in your investments.
And Colton, I'm sure we also don't want to rush into any big financial decisions during this time.
Exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the third tip. Some people have their own kind of rules, if you will, set in place. Like I have to sleep on every big financial decision, or I have to talk to a couple of people before I make big financial decisions. And so I would suggest maybe have some professionals in your corner. I know many folks come to us to chat with us about their big financial decisions, and maybe someone has some pros or cons that you haven't thought of or haven't taken into consideration. So I definitely think it's a good idea to have some folks in your corner to talk about those things.
And how can we get in contact with you over at Edward Jones?
Yeah, just go online, www.edwardjones.com. There's several of us here in town. We'd be happy to set up a time to talk.
Excellent. Well, thank you for these tips, Colton. We appreciate you joining us today.